Well, good morning, Rock Church. How's everybody doing? Good? Good. Fired up to be here? Enjoy that last worship song? A couple of you did. Thank you, Candy. I appreciate you. Hey, man, I'm glad you guys are here. Glad those of you watching online, C3, wherever you might be, that you're here. It might be your first time with us, and if that's the case, man, thank you. I know just going to a new church, going to a new environment, sometimes there can be a little anxiety with that. You can wonder, what's church going to be like? What should I wear? What's it going to be like? All those things. Man, I hope you've just had a great experience so far and have enjoyed it and had a chance maybe just to start connecting with God a little bit. And I just want you to know, my name is Josh, one of the pastors, and just look forward just to sharing over the next 25, 30 minutes with you. Let's be real, it's going to be longer than that. No, but not much longer than that. It's usually about 30 to 35. But anyway, just glad that you're here, and I hope you're excited about diving into this rooted topic, all right? And this is a series that we've been doing for a while. We're 5 weeks in. We're really at that midpoint, and I know many of you guys are in small groups, rooted small groups. I know a bunch of you have bought the books, and you've been kind of doing the daily devotional. Let me be a coach. Kind of like at halftime for a second, all right? Like I want to just encourage you and just kind of push you forward just to keep going, all right? So if you've been in that small group, you've been reading that devotional, keep at it. You're at that midpoint. There's some great things that hopefully you've gained already, and there's so much more to get. But it also could be one of those things that maybe you go, yeah, man, last week, I'll just be honest, I didn't do a real good job reading my devotional. I kind of just like missed some opportunities. And I just want to, pat you on the back and encourage you, keep going with it, jump right back in this week and make sure you finish this series strong. Now, with that, though, I also have to speak to those of you who maybe go, well, I'm kind of new around here. I don't really know anything about this rooted thing. And I want you to know you really had a great weekend to be here, because with this series, with this theme, we're really at a point of shift, okay? We're at a point where we're making a major transition in the theme. And what I mean by that is the first 5 weeks when we talked about this concept of rooted, we talked about how do you dig your roots down deep? Like, how do you allow your roots of your faith to grow so that you're not just surviving, but your faith and your life is actually thriving. And we talked a lot about what I would probably call downward growth or inward growth, things just about how do I get my roots into the ground deeper. Today we're making a major shift of, rather than thinking downward, we're going to talk about outward. And where we spent 5 weeks talking about downward, we're now going to spend the next 5 weeks talking about ways to live your life outwardly, ways to make the most of your life, ways to get the best out of your life, ways to make a difference with your life. And I really think that's probably what all of us long to do. I think we all, when we come to the end of our life, I don't think anybody's going to be wanting to go, well, I made it this long, or, well, I made this much money, or what. No, I think everybody kind of has this natural desire inside of our lives that when we start looking back over our lives, we ask that question, did I make a difference with my life? Like, did I make a difference with my kids? Did I make a difference in my family? Did I make a difference to those around me? Did I make a difference in my neighborhood or my community or my country or my world, all right? And I really believe that that's kind of what we long to do. And I think this statement, therefore, makes a lot of sense, that we're moving from downward to outward, because living outward is how you can make a difference. I think about kids. If you were to ask a child, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're going to typically say things like firefighter, policeman, teacher, doctor, nurse, vet. They're all these type of careers that are about like being the hero, you know what I mean? About like loving and serving people, about making a difference in their life. And I think that as we continue to grow, sometimes we forget that that's really the desires of our heart. So my hope and my prayer is that over these next 5 weeks, as we continue to talk about rooted, that we'll all grab a hold of this concept of, man, I can make a difference with my life. Like, I don't just have to survive this life that I have on this earth, that I just don't have to make it to death. No, I can make a difference, and I can invest in people. I can challenge people. I can encourage people, and I can help the people around me have the best life possible. And the beauty of that is that will help you have the best life possible. I think about, my own personal life. When I was about 19 years old, 20 years old, like a few years ago, I made a decision to go into ministry. And the whole reason that I went into ministry, one, calling of God, obviously, but besides that was just this desire of wanting to love and serve people. This desire of wanting to make a difference in somebody's life. And, for the last several years, that I've been doing that it's caused me, or called me is probably a better way to say that, to go and do things that I would have never thought I would have done before. Some of you know some of the crazy adventures I've had in my life and the different countries I've been able to be in and homeless ministries and stuff like that. And I would have never thought 20 years ago that I would spend weeks of my life sleeping on streets. But what it was is I felt called by God to do it because there were people that need a difference made in their life. And that was the calling he had on me. It's the calling he has on me right now. And he's got a calling for you as well. And I want you to grab a hold of that God has called each and every one of us to do things that he has already positioned you for and situations for. It's a scripture. It says this, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. It says, "For we are God's masterpiece." Now that's you can probably stop right there. Think about that for a second. When's the last time somebody looked at you and said, "You're a masterpiece," right? Like for some of us who are older like me, you look in the mirror and go, "Yeah, not anymore." You know what I mean? Right? But God says, we are his masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago. That God's got things that he has specifically called you to do. So again, over the next 5 weeks, we're going to talk about that. And what we're going to deal with specifically this morning is this concept that you are called to serve. That you are called to serve people. That you are called to love and serve people. That you're called to serve God and serve his people. All right? And we're going to dig into that in a lot of ways. Our problem with this concept is most of us, we have this inner desire rather than to serve, we'd rather be seen. You know what I mean? Like rather than serving others, most of us have this inner desire that, well, I want to be seen, not necessarily I want to serve. And let me take you to a Bible story to illustrate that. It's found in the book of Mark, and Mark is a gospel account. Sometimes we call it a biography of Jesus. It was written by a guy who was trying to record what happened to Jesus while he was here on this earth. And what's going on in this story is Jesus had gone throughout the land, and he had asked 12 guys to come and be his followers. Maybe you've heard of them called as the 12 apostles or the 12 disciples. They were 12 guys that Jesus went and specifically said, I want you to follow me, I want you to follow me, I want you to follow me. Basically, I want you guys to be my inner circle. I want to really pour into you. You're my small group, all right? And so as he did that, he was pouring into these guys. 2 of them were named James and John, all right? They were brothers. And at one point, James and John went to Jesus and said, hey, Jesus, we've got a favor we want to ask you. And he's like, all right, go ahead and ask. They said, can when you come into your kingdom, can we sit on your right and your left hand? Like basically what they're saying is when you establish your kingdom on earth, because that's what they kind of thought he was doing at that time. When you establish your kingdom on earth, can we sit at your right hand and your left hand? Meaning, can we have the best seats in the house? Can we be at the place that when people are looking at you, they're seeing that we're chilling with you? Can we sit right and left of you so that we can see everybody who's showing up, so that we can hear closely from you, so that we can be right there with you? What they're basically saying is, Jesus, can we sit next to you so that we can be seen? And Jesus goes, wow, that's quite a question. Do you think you can handle that? Do you think you can drink the cup that I'm drinking? Do you think you can endure the life that I'm about to endure? And they have a little bit more of a conversation about that. And then he basically says, well, reality is, guys, that's not for me to decide. The Father in heaven has already decided who's going to sit at my right and my left. I can't grant that request to you. The problem is then after that conversation, the other disciples, the other 10 dudes, they heard this conversation. They heard what happened. And they start going, James, John, what are y'all thinking? Like, what in the world gives you the right to ask Jesus if you can sit on his right and left-hand side? Now, let's really dig into this for a second. Do you think they were asking him that, asking James and John why they did that because they thought it was wrong? Or do you think they were asking going, man, we're really mad that you asked before we had a chance to ask? Right? You know what I mean? Like, you ask for something that we want because we want to be sitting on his right and left. And basically, there's just a whole lot of pride in the room at the time. And if you were here last week, you remember pride is Satan's playroom. And pride always destroys. And pride always divides. And that's where we see what's going on with these disciples at this point. So Jesus steps in. And Jesus says, hey, let me talk to you for a second, all right? And this is where we'll pick up the story. This is what Jesus had to say. He said, so Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers in this world lord it over their people, and the officials flaunt their authority over those under them. All right, so what Jesus is saying is you have leaders, you have bosses, you have rulers in this world that aren't called to serve. Maybe what Jesus would say is the rulers that you're currently looking at in this world are more called to be seen. Now, that makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, don't we still live in that world? Like haven't you had a boss or a leader in your life that made sure you knew that he was your boss, right? You know what I mean? Like, haven't you been in that situation where you've had a leader and that leader has made sure you knew, I'm the leader and you're the employee, or I'm the leader and you're the one that's supposed to serve me? Because the leader oftentimes says, well, I really want to be seen. And Jesus is going, man, this is the world we're living in right now, but this isn't the way to make a difference in your life. This isn't a way to live your life. There is no joy that is found in that world. There is no life. There is no best life possible in this world of called to be seen. No, Jesus says, no, you need to serve. And look what he says in this next verse. It says this in verse 43. But among you, it will be different. Make sure you catch that. Among you, it will be different. Whoever wants to be leader among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first among you must be slave of everyone. Do you hear that language? I mean, that's language that is totally opposite of what our world would really tell us. Our world would say, man, go and be a leader, go and get yours, go be in charge, go do everything you can. But Jesus says, man, among you, it's going to be different. I've got a calling on your life. In your life, the calling I've got on you is to be different. What I want you to do is I want you to be somebody's servant. I want you to be willing to serve somebody. I want you to be willing to be a slave. I want you to be more like what I've done for you. And that's what he did in this next verse. It says this, that for even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus said, man, not even me, God in the flesh, King of Kings. Like, I didn't come here to be served. I didn't come here to be put in a palace. I didn't come here to be lifted on high. No, I came to serve people. I came to give my life as a ransom. Now, I want you to think about that word for a second. I came to give my life as a ransom. I came to pay someone else's debt. I came to do everything I can to give somebody freedom. Aren't you glad that Jesus did that for you? I know I'm glad that he did it for me. And when I think about this, and when I think about the whole context, do you realize what Jesus is saying? What he's really saying to everybody is, oh, you want to be a leader? Well, you got to be different. You want to be different? Then what you have to do is be last. Now, you have to be willing to be last. And again, that's not language that we celebrate here in America. I mean, when you're sending your kid off to school tomorrow, whether that's at the bus stop or maybe you're dropping them off if you give them a ride, and you're going, hey, little Johnny, I hope you have a great day. Remember, be last today. Right? Like, when's the last time you said that to your kid? Right? No. You know what I mean? Like, I got teenagers that play sports. I don't pat them on the back and send them off to their game and go, hey, do your best to be last today. It's not language that we commonly use with our kids. And we say, hey, be a leader today. Hey, make sure you do what's right today. What would happen if we looked at our kids and said, hey, I want you to be last today? Now, I know you'd have to explain it. But imagine what would happen. Imagine what would happen if we'd say that to ourselves. Hey, Josh, be last today. Instead of putting yourself first, Josh, be last today and serve somebody. Hey, so-and-so, be last today. That when you're at work, figure out a way to put yourself in a servant role. And you know what happens? A couple things will happen if we start to live that life. One, people will be attracted to you. People will long to be around you because there's enough people in this world that are constantly taking from you, right? You know what I mean? And doesn't it feel good when you get around somebody that all of a sudden when you find yourself around them, it seems like they're doing is pouring into you? Like they fill you up when you happen to be around them. And when you're around somebody like that, you're like, man, I like being around that person that when I leave, I feel filled up. I don't like necessarily being around that person that when I leave, I feel like I'm exhausted. You know what I mean? So if we would actually start living in a way that we put ourselves last and start serving people, then the people around us, they're going to take notice of that. And they're going to be like, man, I want to be around that person and I want to figure out what's that person have that I don't necessarily have. What's that person got that I don't got? You know what I mean? Like I'm going to want to lean into that. But then there's a whole nother aspect of it. The other aspect of it is this, is that not only are you going to draw people in and not only are you going to encourage people and have them see something different in you. No, what's going to happen in you is that you're going to see that your life goes to a whole nother level. You're going to see all of a sudden where you're finding purpose and you're finding the best life and you're being encouraged and you're going to be like, man, I'm so glad that I've chosen to put myself last because by putting myself last, I actually feel like my life is of great matter and I'm making a difference. I see this in when people serve. And I had a guy who shared his testimony with me and kind of sent me a text message. And I was just blown away by what he said. Because what it was is he'd made a decision to start serving. And all of a sudden, God just blessed him emotionally. And this is just what I call like an average dude. And what I mean by an average dude, he's a construction worker. He's just a dude, you know what I mean? Who's doing life. And he's saying, well, I'll start investing. And these are his words. He said this, I know it's not about me. Now, let's just stop right there. That's a beautiful statement in life. When we recognize it's not about me, it's about God and serving God's people, all right? It's about God and serving the people he loves, and he loves all people, all right? So this guy catches it right off the beginning. He goes, I know it's not about me, but man, I look forward to serving all week in my ministry area. Then it gets here and it's over like that. It's like a craving for more, to reach more, to do more. Like I just want to serve more and more and more. That God is basically filling him up. And then he says this, I'm glad I joined the Rock. It gives so many opportunities to serve others. And once you begin, you can't get enough of it. And I love what this guy is seeing in his faith. That he's allowed his faith to not only go downward, but he's allowed his faith to go outward. And his faith is going outward. He's seeing the fruit of his ministry. He's seeing God do great things. But what it's doing is it's bringing about great growth in him. And that's what I want to see happen in each and every one of our lives. I want to see us all get to that point where our roots are going down deep and God is using us to do amazing things. And you're finding the best life possible and you're making a difference in people's life. Well, so how do we do that? All right. So like you can go, okay, yep, that sounds good. But how do I do that? Like, okay, if I'm called to serve, like how do I actually do it? Well, I would say one, recognize that you're also empowered to serve. And what I mean by that is sometimes I think we get to this point where we think, man, I'd like to do that, but I don't know if I have the power. I don't know if I have the ability. I don't know if I have what it takes. And I want you to know, no, you are empowered by God to serve. And all you got to do is follow his example. So let me tell you another story about Jesus. And this one's found in John chapter 13. It's another gospel account, a biography of Jesus. And in this story, what we find is Jesus living out this model of service. And if we'll put what we see in this story into practice, then you can figure out a way, well, this is how I'm empowered as well. And what it is Jesus is getting ready to eat dinner, all right? He's getting ready to eat the Passover meal. Now, this is the Passover meal where Jesus was sitting around a table and he said, hey guys, next time you eat any bread, I want you to remember that my body was broken for you. I want you to do this in remembrance of me, all right? Next time you pick up a cup of juice, I want you to remember that my blood was poured out for you, all right? So what this meal is this is the last meal Jesus is going to eat here on earth before he dies, all right? So this is coming to the very end of his life, and that's very significant when you start to see everything that he did in it, okay? So let me read it from the screen. It says this in John chapter 13, verse 1. It says, before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world and return to his Father. So he knew this is it. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. It was time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. So he got up from the table, he took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. And then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that he had around him. So what you've got is Jesus eating dinner with his 12 disciples, and in the middle of eating dinner, he sees an opportunity to serve, and he takes advantage of it, all right? So the first thing I want to say, if you really want to serve people, then the first thing you got to do is you got to humble yourself like Jesus did. I want you to think about this. This is the King of Kings. This is God saying, I'm going to serve people. He takes off his robe, and he wraps himself in a towel. He's basically taking on the form of a servant. And then not just that, not just taking on the form of a servant, but then he proceeds to wash their feet. Make sure you catch that. He washes their feet. Now, guys, we have hundreds of ministries people do around this church. My guess, if I said today we're going to start a new ministry, if you'd like to sign up to wash people's feet, you can go to the Connect Corner. And everybody would exit through that door and go out that entryway and wouldn't go anywhere near the Connect Corner, right? Because everybody would be like, man, now that's gross. Because feet are gross, aren't they? I mean, I'm not alone, am I? Like when I look at feet, I'm like, ugh, you know? But here is God taking on the form of a servant and bending his knee, humbling himself to the point that he's willing to wash these dudes' feet. These guys who have been walking for the last 3 years around Jerusalem and Galilee and all that area, walking on nasty roads, getting their feet all chafed up, nasty, and you know their toenails weren't perfect, right? You know, they were a manicurist's like worst nightmare, you know? But Jesus said, no, I'll humble myself. What would happen if we take that form? What would happen if we said, you know what, it's not about me. I'm willing to serve. I'm willing to do things that maybe somebody else isn't willing to do. I just want to be like Jesus, and I want to serve him. Man, I see people like that all the time around here. I see people who they're serving without being seen, that they're serving in ministry areas that nobody would ever even see them serving. Yet every week they show up, and whether that's taking out the trash, whether that's cutting the grass, whether that's, getting a parking lot ready, whether that's in here running a vacuum cleaner, who knows? I mean, all over the place. You'll see people serving and they don't care if they're seen. I think about a couple of retired couples who serve every week in the nursery. That every week that they just show up, And it'd be real easy for them as a retired couple to go, you know what? We've done our time. We've served the nursery for years. We've served God for years. We've served the church for years. How about somebody else step up? How about somebody else, take my place in the nursery? But I love the fact that these retired couples that do that, and the ones that I'm mentally thinking about right now, that I know that the way they do it is they say, we want to love and serve this generation. And we want to teach these little kids Bible studies. We want to teach these little kids God's words, and we want their parents to be able to sit in the auditorium and hear from God. And I'm so thankful that they tirelessly every week serve and go unnoticed. And that's just a couple different things I say. I could go through almost every ministry area, all right? Because most ministry areas here at the church, no one would, it's kind of an unseen ministry. It takes an act of humility to do that, because you realize I'm going to serve even though I'm not going to be seen. And whether that's inside these walls or whether it's out in the world, we got to take a step of humility. But then there's another thing Jesus did. The second thing he did is he used his gifts. And when you think use his gifts, we know it's Jesus. Like he could do all kinds of miracles. I want you to make sure you catch this. He could have said, feet be clean. And they could have been clean. Like he has that magical ability. He has that ability as God to do miracles. He could have made the water show up on their feet. He could have done it all without even touching them. He could have healed a leper without touching him. He could have healed the lady who was bleeding without her touching him. He could have done all that, but that's not how Jesus acts. No, Jesus says, I'm just going to use whatever gift I have right now to love these people. So he picked up a bowl of water and a towel. Now, let's be honest, a bowl of water and a towel is not much, is it? You know what I mean? Like that's not like a very, big gift. That's not like one of those gifts that you go, wow, if I only had a bowl of water and a towel. But Jesus took that little gift that he had and he used it. Meaning, the little things that we have, he can use. And that might be your time. It might be your resources. It might be your talents, that he can take whatever he has already given you and use it to do a miracle in somebody's life. Look at this scripture. It says this in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10. God has given each of you, all right? So I'm saying this specifically to each and every one of you who are hearing my voice right now, that he has given you a gift from his great variety of spiritual gifts. From his great variety, meaning all, just hundreds and thousands of different kinds of spiritual gifts. He has given each of you a gift that you can use. So use them well to serve one another. So maybe one of your gifts is your talent. Maybe your talent is the way that you can smile and greet people, all right? Guys, that's a talent. It's a talent not everybody has, right? You know what I'm saying? Like some of us just have that I'm mad at the world all the time look on our face, right? You know what I mean? That some of you have an ability just to receive people and to welcome people and to love people, all right? And God wants to use that talent. Some of you have a talent of being able to lead people. He wants to use that talent. Some of you have the talent of teaching and helping people understand scripture. He wants to use that talent, whether that's in our kids ministry, in a small group ministry, whether it's somebody over at lunch, he wants to use you that way, all right? Because some of you have the ability to make money. He wants to use that talent. He wants to use that resource to help people. And you might, let's just think about it from that way in a generosity standpoint. You might go, well, man, I don't have much when it comes to money, for instance, that I can even give to God. Maybe you go, I've heard the biblical precedent of giving 10% of your income, and you might say, man, I only make $100 a week. What will $10 do? Can God do anything with $10? And I would say absolutely. That God can do a miracle with your $10. That he can absolutely change a life. And the life that he changes might actually be yours. He might change your life because you might go, wow, God, look at how you've taken that and multiplied it, yet still taking care of my needs. So whether it's a little gift that you have or whether it's a large gift that you have, use it all for God because he wants to use it to change the world, to make a difference. For that to happen, then you got to seize the opportunity. Now I want you to think about this for a second. And Jesus is sitting down, he's eating dinner with these 12 guys. And he seized an opportunity. He got up from the table, he looked at these 12 guys, and he loved them. Now, I want you to dig into this a little bit further. What's going to happen this night? Jesus knows all. So he knows what's going to happen this night. He knows that he's going to be going out to a garden and he's going to spend the rest of the night awake and in prayer and in agony and in stress and in anxiety. He knows that's coming. He knows in the morning that he's going to be arrested. He knows that as he gets arrested that he's going to be put on trial. He knows that while he's put on trial that he's going to have people make false accusations against him, that they're going to spit on him and that they're going to hit him. He knows that he's going to go and he's going to be before Pilate and he's going to be before Herod. He knows that a crown of thorns is coming in the morning hours. He knows that a whip is going to hit him in the midday hours. He knows that spikes are going to go into his wrists and into his feet at about the 3 o'clock hour. He knows in the late afternoon that he's going to die on a cross. He knows within the next 24 hours that he's going to be dead. But what did he do? He got up from a table and he seized an opportunity to serve the men around that table. I want you to think about how easy would it have been for Jesus to go, man, guys, I'd love to wash your feet right now. I'd love to serve you all. But I know in the next 24 hours is going to be a really tough time in my life. Is it okay with you if I just kind of sit back and chill at the table? And we would all go, of course it is. But that's not what Jesus saw. No, Jesus saw a group of men that he needed to set one more example for them. And I think it's a beautiful example for us because the example he was setting was when you're tired, still serve. When you're worn out, still serve. When bad things are coming into your life, battle them by serving people. When you don't feel like it, get up and still serve and love people. And we say all the time, and I know we live in a busy, busy world, but we always say, I don't have time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the desire right now. Jesus didn't have the time. My guess is he didn't have the energy. I don't know about his desire, but I know he fulfilled it. And he went and he washed those dudes' feet. Let's learn from his example and let's seize every opportunity we find. Because what commonly happens is when we see an opportunity, we say, well, I got something else I'd rather do. I don't have enough time here. And I don't have enough energy here. Let's flip the script. And let's decide to put ourselves last and say it's not about me, and we seize the opportunity God gives us. And the opportunities he gives us, that means that we have to use them to love all and to serve all. I want you to catch this last part of this story. Jesus, think about it, when he got up from the table, he went and he washed the disciples' feet, all 12 of them. And while he was washing those disciples' feet, he came across two different guys. One of them was a guy who said, I don't want you to serve me. I don't want you to love me. I don't want you to serve me right now. He came to Peter, and when he got to Peter, he started to get to that point where he's going to wash his feet. And Peter said, no. I'm not going to let you wash my feet. And Jesus said, Peter, if I don't wash your feet, then you have no part of me. All right? At that moment, Peter's saying, I don't want you to do this. And reality is, many of us walk in Peter's shoes. Many of us walk in his steps. Many of us walk that life, or maybe you're even at that point right now where you say, man, I don't know if I want the love of Jesus in my life. I don't know if I want Jesus serving me. Like you might be here today, maybe it's your first or second time, and you're just like, man, I don't know. I'm just kind of checking this out. Somebody just invited me. I'm here. I don't really know if I want God in my life. Jesus knows where you're at right now, but he still chooses to love you and serve you. I remember a time in my life when I was running after my own desires. It was all about me, and I wanted absolutely nothing to do with Jesus Christ. And I know that Jesus knew me right then. And Jesus, when he went to the cross 2,000 years ago, he knew there was a day that Josh Finkley would say, I don't want God in my life. I don't want God loving me. I don't want God serving me. Yet Jesus still died on the cross for me. And he still does it for you. Jesus chose to love all and serve all. There's another guy in the crowd, and the other guy in the crowd was Judas. And I want you to think about this. Jesus already knew that Judas had betrayed him. He already knew that he had entered into an agreement with the guys to give Jesus up. Yet Jesus still went and he served Judas. Jesus served Peter when Peter didn't want to be served, and Jesus served Judas when Judas didn't deserve to be served. Now let's make sure we all catch this, and this isn't a fun thing to catch, but we all need to catch this. Not a single one of us deserves to be served by Jesus. Not a single one of us. There's not a single thing that we've done. There's not enough good deeds that any of us can do that would say, all right, I've got enough good deeds in my scale. Now I deserve the grace of God. No, we will never deserve the grace of God. We'll never deserve the act that Jesus did on the cross, the act that Jesus did when he served us and when he loved us. But I'm so thankful that Jesus, when he looks at people, he doesn't say, do you deserve my love and my service? He doesn't ask that question. No, Jesus just looks at each and every person and he says, you are a child of God, so I'm going to love you and I'm going to serve you and I'm going to pray and I'm going to hope and I'm going to draw you in, longing you to come back and receive the grace that I've already given you. And I'm so thankful. But we got to take that lesson and put it into practice. Because how many times do we serve those we love? But when we see somebody who doesn't deserve our service, deserve our love, we go, well, I'll just step back. Right? Because that's hard. Like, I know that there's people in your life that you go, man, I don't want to love them. I don't want to serve them. I get it. They've stabbed you in the back. They've hurt you emotionally. They've been mean to you at school or mean to you at work. And I know the natural thing is, well, I just put them on the list. You girls, you all have a list. I know it, all right? That's how y'all operate. But you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? They treat you like that, like, they on the list. But what would happen if we said, nope, that person's going on my list, and that list that I now have is a list to love and to serve them. And I'm going to do everything I can. That person might not like me because of my lifestyle. I'm going to love and I'm going to serve them. That person might not like me because of my past. I'm going to love them and I'm going to serve them. That person that might not like me because of the color of my skin. I'm going to love them. I'm going to serve them. That person might have done this. They might have done that. They might have just messed with my life. But I'm going to love them and I'm going to serve them because I want to be like Jesus. And I know that's going to create the best life in me. It's going to help me to make a difference. And it might just make a difference in their life. Because that's what Jesus did. He loved all and he served all. So let's follow his example, even though I know it's extremely difficult. But guys, here's the great thing. When we do that, man, that's when you make a difference. You see, difference makers are called and empowered to do something. Difference makers are called and empowered to do something. Difference makers are people who will live outward, who will live and look for people that they can love and that they can serve. And when you recognize that you are called to do that and you are empowered by God to do that, you can make a major difference in somebody's life. You see that story in John 13 wraps up. Jesus said this, I have given you an example to follow. Now do as I have done. Now do it. Now do it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to move into a time of response right now. And as we move into this time of response, then I want us to do something. Maybe that what you're going to do is maybe you're going to humble yourself. That you're going to just spend some time going, man, I need to get right with God. I need to humble myself and I need to bend a knee. That maybe I've been at that point where I didn't want God in my life. I didn't want God serving me. I didn't want God anything about me, but I do now. And maybe today is your day that you're just going to humble yourself and bend a knee and say, Jesus, I need you as my Savior. Or maybe what you need to do is humble yourself in a way and say, all right, Jesus, I know you as my Savior, but I need to humble myself and make sure it's not about me and that it's about you and it's about others. And I need to serve you and I need to serve others. And if that's the case, then what you need to do right now is just take an inventory. What gifts has he given you? Whether that's a gift of time, whether that's a gift of talent, whether that's a gift of a resource, and say, all right, God, you've gifted me this way. I'm going to use it for you. And then seize the opportunity. Right now, you have an opportunity. Right now, each and every one of us in this room, we have an opportunity to meet with God. We have an opportunity to respond to God. So take advantage of this very opportunity right now and spend some time communicating with him and respond to what you've discovered today. And then when we leave here, make sure you're seizing every opportunity that he puts in your face to do something. Would you do me a favor? Let's go ahead and stand. I'm going to pray here in a second, and I'm just going to invite us to respond. And again, man, if you have a decision that you want to make about responding to Jesus, if you have a need that you're saying, man, I need Jesus as my Savior, I'm going to be hanging at the Connect corner. I've got some friends that'll be there, and we'd love to talk to you there. Let me pray. Jesus, thank you for this morning. And I just pray right now, Jesus, that we would respond to the things we've discovered, that we'd recognize how much you love us, how much you love everyone, and that you desire everyone to come into a relationship with you. So help us to do what you've called us to do. In your name, amen.